Hi, I'm Lauren Oppelt, and I'm a member of the Costume Designers Guild Local 892 and the chairperson of their mask making committee. We've partnered with Local 705, the motion picture costumers, and their expert pattern makers and costume builders to source fabric and create a mask pattern with the best efficacy and fit for hospitals, grocery workers, nursing homes, clergy, and other at-risk communities. We'd like to thank Locals 44, 80, 700, 768, 800, 839, and the IATSE for all of your help and support. And now I'd like to introduce Local 705 custom-made costumer Augusta Avalone for a step-by-step face mask tutorial. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Augusta Avalone, and I'm here to help you get through your mask making process. We heard some concerns from our membership that these are tricky little buggers, and they're tricky little buggers. So I'm here to help you through this process so it makes sense, so it becomes easier for you, and then you can just plow through them and we can keep saving lives. This new model is open at the top. It does have the wire in the nose, and it has the pleats, and it has this knit piece, which I know has been some bedeviling of some people, myself included. Here's why this is important. See this link below? This will lead you to information about how t-shirt knit actually catches more of the virus than regular woven cotton. We want it to be as efficient as possible in saving lives. These masks in particular are being sent to healthcare professionals. Now, you might have seen what I'm calling the motocross style, which is ones I have been making on the side for friends and family. If you're making these for your friends and your family, keep doing it. If you're making these for people at healthcare facilities who don't have COVID, keep doing it. There's no such thing as a bad mask right now, but what IATSE is specifically focusing on is for healthcare professionals. The one thing I want to say about this whole process is don't let perfect be the enemy of finished. It's a numbers game right now. So is my top stitching perfect? No. Am I cranking out 20 a day? Yes. And again, 20 a day, it's a lot. It's a lot. If you can do one a day, do one a day. If you can do two a day, do two a day. Every little bit helps. So let's get started. Let's start cutting some fabric. We have in this kit your woven material, your lining material, which is stretchy t-shirt knit, elastic, and then we have twist ties. You either have one long one bent in half, or you have two little ones. Be sure to be careful that when you're cutting out your pattern, you save the elastic cutting guide. We got our pattern cut out. Now let's go over some things. So you can see here on the top, we've marked the top on our fabric so we can find it again. We've got two fold lines. We have all of our little edges where our pleats are going to match up. 1/4 inch seam allowance, which is that dotted line right around there. Let's talk about grain and stretch. Okay, on your woven material. Essentially when we talk about grain, there's two kinds. There's the weave and the warp, and they interlock, and that's what gives you this material. There's no real wrong answer. We just want you to get this done. So as long as you're not cutting it on the diagonal, which wouldn't yield you as many pieces anyway, just cut it so that either any of these edges lines up with a fold in the fabric or along the top edge. You should be fine. When laying out my fabric, I like to make sure that the selvage ends match up. You'll notice that the cut ends may not be even, so folding the fabric twice, once in half and once again, making sure that you see the raw edges sticking out so you don't cut anything too short. But this way, if I fold it into fourths, I can cut out twice as many, twice as fast. Now, I recommend using a pattern weight versus pins. If you don't have a cute gewgaw like I do, anything heavy will work. You may also not have a giant cutting shears like I do, but any good craft scissor will work as well. Now, the one thing we are going to do is we're going to mark the top of each piece with a tiny T so we can find that again. As to the stretch, see this little line here that says most stretch when you cut your knit material. This has super stretch, this has not as much stretch, so we want to make sure that we line this up so it has the most stretch. The key to laying out the knit material is we're going to match the upper selvage ends, and you'll notice that, of course, the ends are curling because it is a knit. So we're just going to keep shaking it out, trying to get it to lay flat, carefully massaging it, trying to match those rolled ends. I know it's not fun, but we'll get you there. So just keep pushing it around. Remember, you're the boss of it. It is not the boss of you. In this case, we don't want to cut too many layers because it does move around a lot. So what I'm doing is I'm lining my pattern up on the outside edges. And we're going to cut from here. Now, ideally, if you have a rotary cutter, this is what it's perfect for. If you don't have a rotary cutter, go ahead and use your craft scissors. Just make sure you take your time. Now, the instructions will say that you should clip these little markings, these notches. You can totally do that if you feel skilled enough. I'm going to show you how to mark it with chalk or a pen, a heat erasing pen, or even a pencil, because these are gonna be tricky, especially with the knit. Let's go over some marking tools. You can use tailor's chalk. You can use a chalking wheel. You can use the all the rage heat erasing markers, aka friction markers. In a pinch, you can use a colored pencil. And you can use a regular pencil, but keep in mind that the last two will not come off with heat or steam the way the first three will. Now, one of the tricks here is if you are marking with a heat erasable pen, as you're working on the top edge of both, you may erase your lines while you're working on it. One little tip I learned was to go ahead and do the top edge first and then mark the pleats. Okay, so let's mark this puppy. So we got a tiny little T for top. We're going to line that up at the top of our pattern. And now we are going to mark the lowest fold line. I'm going to show you a little trick. Okay, so we're marking that. One side, other side. Just the lower line. And we're going to take our ruler. We're going to draw across it. This trick is so neat when I figured it out. Okay, so what we have is we've marked it an inch from the top. But when you have that inch, you have a half inch. And then we want to press it and fold it again. And then you have your hem. Folding it down to meet our marked line. And we can actually finger press this, which is where you just, I like to use my thumbnail. I'm just sliding it along that edge, sliding it along this edge, and it kind of already puts a press in. Not a great press, but good enough to hold it while you get the iron. pressing that down, turning it again, pressing that down. Okay, now we're going to put in our twist ties. So we could measure this and find center with the ruler, or we could do a very simple cheat, which is folded in half. And we're going to stick a pin in it, but we're going to stick a pin in lower than the hem, so that when we open it, we didn't catch any part of this hem. Here are our twist ties. We're going to line them up and stick them in. Now, how do you know that you've lined them up even? We can measure them. 4 inches, so 2 and 2. So I'm actually just gonna eyeball this. Here's the 2-inch mark, which should be halfway. I'm lining it up with my pin, and I'm folding this down. See, they're caught in there. Okay. Taking my center mark pin and just putting it underneath those little twist ties to catch them. Now we're going to do another pin on the edge of where those twist ties are, and one on this edge. Let's sew them in. I have my stitch length set really small. A number 2 on a modern machine. If you have an old-timey grandma machine, it would be closer to a 20, and that's stitches per inch. I don't know what the modern system is. I don't know why it's lower numbers. It's weird to me. Okay, I've also got a zipper foot in because I want to get right up against those twist ties. Sew down one side. I'm leaving the needle down. For all you newbies, I'm leaving the needle down into the fabric. I'm gonna pivot. You see that? Pivot that. Lower the presser foot, and now I can sew a straight line across the bottom of the twist ties. Be careful, you don't want to catch the twist ties. You just don't want to risk breaking your needle, since you can't easily run out and buy a new one. Okay, as we get close to our bottom pin, I'm going to walk that with my hand. Again, I don't want to catch the pin, and I don't want to catch the twist ties. And now we're coming up the far side. A few more stitches. There we go. All right. Ta-da! Now we're going to go ahead and sew across the bottom of this just to lock that flap down. Now, I'm not worried about straight lines. I just need to catch that and not catch the twist tie. As you can see, my stitches get a little wonky where the zipper foot is catching the thickness of the twist tie. Don't worry about that. Okay, the knit is squidgy, which is a combination of slippery and squishy and hard to work with. But as we know, as we've discussed, super better for our healthcare professionals to breathe through this. We're looking at our top, and we're going to do the same thing that we just did for the outside material. We're going to do it on this knit lining, but we're not going to do the twist ties. So I am going to take my pattern, line it up, mark that lower fold line, draw directly across, and we're going to fold this down. Now you can't really put a finger press in knit because you don't want to stretch it out. Whenever you're pressing knit, you want to press flat, not iron. If you iron it, you're going to stretch it, and then it's going to grow. So that's my first fold, and then we're going to do one more. And we're going to put some pins in it to hold it in place. Now I'm going to show you something. See this little corner? See how it stretched even from just pressing down? This is what we're dealing with knit. It's just a hard material work with, especially in straight geometric lines. And when you're done with this, you're going to be a pro at it. But the first one is going to look a little rough. The pros don't talk about how many times we failed at things, and we totally do. All right, going in. Real quick, I want to talk about lessening and tightening your presser foot. When you're sewing knit, you want to take as much tension off. So on top of my machine, I have this little screw that I can tighten or loosen, and that takes the pressure off the presser foot. If you have an old-timey grandma machine, there'll be a knob at the top that you can turn to loosen the presser. You can loosen the tension just a little when you're sewing knit, and that should leave for some smooth sailing. So when you backstitch, don't be too close to the edges, either edge, because it will actually bunch up the knit and drag it through the hole in your presser plate. But there you go. Okay, this is where it gets kind of tricky. We are going to grab at that top notch on both sides, that first top marking, and we are going to pinch it and bring it down to the next line. And then we're going to put a pin in one side. And again, we're going to match these lines. We can do our little finger press because we've got a good woven. It'll take that. And when you pin on the far side, we're going to pin in the opposite direction. So the points will meet. I'll explain why in a second. Next, line. Line 3 meets line 4. Tiny little finger press. Holding this in. Mark 5 to mark 6. A little bit of a finger press. Pin. Okay. Ooh, we did it. They're all facing the same direction. So, I'm going to hit this with an iron. The reason we did the heads of the pins on the outside is now we can press it with the pin still in it and not make little bumps in our material. Now we have to do it with the t-shirt material. Get your cuss jar ready. This is not going to be fun. Okay, guys, here we go. Grabbing the top mark, pinching it, bringing it down. Now, we don't have the luxury of doing a finger press here. So we're just going to put pins in it. Next line, pinch, fold, pin, pin, last one, pinch, fold, not ironing, pressing flat. Okay, That was probably one of the hardest parts and you just did it. Now I am going to show this to you. See how uneven it is because we pressed it? That is just the nature of the beast. Okay, we're going to run this through a machine. We're going to lock those pleats into place. That's it. That's our woven side. Now the t-shirt side. As you can see, the minute you pick it up, the pleats are already kind of drooping. They're wilting. So we just have to be super careful when we tack these pleats into place. So I'm going to go way slower. And I'm going to actually stitch over the pins. On the woven, I was pulling the pins as we went. In this case, I'm going to leave the pins in there, making sure the ball heads are far enough away outside of the presser foot. And I'm just going to go slowly. Again, I don't want the needle to catch on the pin and snap, so we're just going to move really slow on this one. Sometimes it helps to talk to the fabric. That's totally up to you. I'll never judge you for it. I've been in plenty of workrooms where you can just hear the whisper of everyone going, do it, do it, do it for me. We did it. There it is. Okay, let's marry these together. We're going to sew just across the bottom and get those two pieces married together. And what we want to do is we want to make sure that, again, we have the right sides facing each other. So what's the right side again? It's the top that does not have this little extra flap. It's the clean side. So we're doing clean side to clean side. We're just going to match the upper top corners as best we can because, of course, our knit drifted. And now we're going to line up the bottom. So we're going to lay it out and kind of massage it into place. And we are going to use a lot of pins. A whole lot of pins because we don't want the knit to keep shifting. Liner layer is squishy. We're actually going to put that on the bottom. It's less likely to move. Let's do it. Now remember, we're sewing again at 1/4 inch just across the bottom. Okay. We are stitched together. Okay, we're going to press open this seam. I'm going to lay this flat open. It's going to be a little tricky that you're going to have to press this and not press out your pleats. So what I recommend is pressing it with your pleats already flat and even. And now, again, another little tricky part. We're going to fold right on our seam line. We're going to do it from the liner side so that you have just the tiniest bit of woven showing. And we're going to press it again and again, making sure that our knit pleats are holding their shape. This way we don't get the liner coming through the other side and sagging. We are going to pin the elastic to the woven part. And I am going to eyeball it 1/8 of an inch from the top. There. 1/8 of an inch from the top. And 1/8 of an inch from the bottom. We want to make sure that it's one continuous line. We don't want it to twist at all. And now we are going to take our liner and fold that up Again, right sides together. And we're going to catch the elastics in between the two layers. So I'm not going to pull the pin out of my elastic. I'm just going to add one more pin next to it. Because of everything drifting and two different materials, the easiest way to pin these together is to kind of sort of match the pleats. It will not be an exact match. Okay, let's sew this together. I don't want to pull the pin out of the elastic as I'm stitching this, because in one of the test runs I did that too soon and the elastic ping snapped back and I didn't catch the edge of it in the seam. So I'm leaving my pins in. I'm just going to go real slow until I know that it caught. Back stitch. So we're going to turn it inside out. Now I cheat. I've got some natural set of claws here. What I'm doing is I'm sticking my thumbnail in the corner. I'm putting my index fingernail on top of it. And then when I turn, I'm pushing it to make that nice little corner. Right there. You can get a tool in there if you want. I don't feel the need. It's not a piece of precision work. We want to take pride in our stuff, but it's also not a couture piece. It's a workhorse. Okay, turned it inside out. I'm not going to put this on my face because of my lipstick smearing it, but you get the idea. And we have our little twist ties to pinch to the nose. We have our opening for our HEPA filter. So let's iron this one last time. And again, we're going to iron it on the lining side so we can make sure those pleats stay in place. Now I'm going to show you this. See how the knit has come up a little bit over the woven? It's okay. It's okay. Okay, I know what you're thinking. In this case, top stitching is not decorative. It really serves a purpose. The top stitching will help them hold their shape. So when they get chucked in the dryer, they don't get too wonky. Who's ever taking them out of the dryer is certainly not ironing each one. So let's get some pins in this. Okay, we did it. So I'm just gonna QC and cut off any little loose threads that are poking out. But we did our first mask. Now, I'm here to tell you, the first one you make is gonna be twice as long. And then the next one you make is gonna be 1.5 times as long. And the third one you make, well, that'll be about the time it takes. By the 5th one, you'll be able to do it in your sleep. And since we're asking you to make anywhere between 16 to 22 of them in each kit, you should be a pro. One last pro tip. I like to production line things, which means I will cut all my pieces. I will mark all my upper hems, stitch all that together. I will do each step through all of them. But if you need to focus and do one at a time, especially the first few to get muscle memory on it, you do you. There's no wrong answer. Okay, good luck sewers, stay safe, and thanks for all your help.